Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a breaking headline moment that fundamentally rewrites the economic narrative of professional women's basketball. The silence from the executive suite has finally been broken, and the owner of the New York Liberty, Joe Tsai, has just dropped a truth bomb that the entire industry has been terrified to admit. In a candid revelation that is shaking the foundations of the WNBA discourse, Tsai explicitly confirmed that the massive financial surge of the league, specifically a staggering 400% increase in business metrics, is directly tied to the arrival of one singular force, Caitlin Clark. This is not speculation. This is the owner of the league's super team admitting that the general sports fan was not watching before, and the reason they are watching now is solely because of the phenomenon in Indiana. We must immediately dissect the gravity of this admission because it comes from a very specific source. Joe Tsai is not a passive investor. He is arguably one of the most competent, hands-on, and modern owners in the entire landscape of professional basketball. When the owner of the New York Liberty, a franchise that many analysts point to as the model of independent success, steps forward and acknowledges that the tide rising all ships is generated by Caitlin Clark, it ends the debate.
Business, and we can shift to basketball, but I think Caitlin Clark is out for the season, and there's just been a lot of controversy and attention that the WNBA is getting. What has it done right? What has it done wrong? Has the league been doing enough to protect her as a star in the face of the league? It's been almost a microcosm for just a social discussion. Do you want to just talk about that as what you see?
The news here is the validation of the Clark effect from the highest levels of governance. Tsai revealed that even the Liberty, a team stacked with stars and championship aspirations, experienced a 4x growth factor.
Caitlin Clark definitely had an effect on the WNBA. All the metrics went up. So this was last season, right, when she first came into the league from college. And we've seen all of our metrics from viewership, ticket sales, sponsorship, everything went up almost 4x. 4x.
This confirms that the economic explosion of the WNBA is not a distributed effort, but a centralized shockwave radiating from one player, and the reluctance to say her name in the boardroom is finally evaporating. Let's analyze the context of this statement, because the transcript reveals a deep-seated hesitation within the league's culture to credit Clark. The reporting suggests that even when discussing this 400% growth, there was a sense that Tsai didn't want to say it because of who she is. He reportedly tripped over himself before finally landing on the truth.
4x, right.
I mean, that's incredible.
That's incredible. So the economic impact that she's made to the league is extraordinary. Undeniable. But because of who she is, she's a little bit of a different kind of play. She's a point guard. She's a smaller player.
This hesitation is the story. It highlights a friction that exists between the business reality and the cultural narrative. The data is undeniable, yet there is a tangible struggle among the league's gatekeepers to openly attribute this golden era to the rookie from Iowa. They want to credit the collective, they want to credit the legacy, but the ledger, and Joe Tsai, says otherwise. We have to look at the numbers provided because they paint a picture of two completely different leagues operating under one banner. The discrepancy in viewership is not just a gap, it is a chasm. The reporting highlights that non-Caitlin Clark games are averaging somewhere around 700,000 viewers on networks like ESPN. That is a respectable number, a sign of growth for the hardcore fan base. However, when you flip the switch to a game featuring Caitlin Clark, that number skyrockets to an average of 2.5 million. That is more than 3 times the viewership. It is a 300% delta based purely on the presence of one athlete. This statistical reality validates Tsai's admission. The general sports watcher is tuning in for Clark, while the hardcore base remains steady but significantly smaller. This brings us to the Liberty defense that has been used by detractors all season. For months, critics have argued that the league is fine without Clark because teams like the New York Liberty are thriving. They point to the cues in Brooklyn, the merchandise sales, and the star power of Stewart and Ionescu. But here we have the owner of that very team dismantling that argument. By admitting that even his franchise went up 4x due to this wave, he is effectively saying that the Liberty's current boom is also a byproduct of the Caitlin Clark ecosystem.
The knock on her was she going to be able to withstand all the physicality of the league? And she's proven that she's able to do that. Unfortunately, there's been, I think it's always good to have rivalries, right? She has this rivalry with Angel Reese that dated back to college, but some people would like to pit it as a kind of a racial thing, or is it, this or that? I think we need to look past that and just look at the skill set that's being brought into the league. Now we have so many great college players. I mean, the Rookie of the Year potential candidate is Sonia Citron. Have you ever heard of her before she came into the league? I mean,
no.
I think she just broke the record for the highest three-point shooting percentage in the league.
The league is fine without her argument collapses when the premier franchise owner admits his own fourfold growth is tethered to her influence. The conversation deepens when we look at the double standards and the hater psychology referenced in this report. The transcript touches on a visceral truth. The animosity directed toward Caitlin Clark is rarely about her performance on the floor. It is about who she is. We are seeing a landscape where the goalposts move depending on the jersey.
So, you see tremendous amount of talent, and I think you ask what have they done right? I think it's a matter of just a confluence of good things coming into the league.
And what about the NBA? So you guys did just an enormous.
Yeah, just let me but the one thing that's really changed that is, prior to the Caitlin Clark season, your average fan base that watches ESPN, basically, you guys are not watching women's basketball. Maybe some of them follow college, but certainly not the WNBA.
Right.
But now your average ESPN fan base, they are watching, the mainstream sports fan base are watching the WNBA.
I think she's a...
The report draws a sharp comparison between the public reaction to Caitlin Clark crashing out or showing emotion versus other players in the league. When Marina Mabrey shows frustration, it is viewed through one lens. When Caitlin Clark is dragged back to the bench by her coaches, screaming in frustration, it is viewed through another. There is a specific reference to the comparisons with Angel Reese. The narrative asks a poignant question. Is Angel Reese slapping the backboard in frustration significantly worse than anything Caitlin Clark does? The answer provided is not really. Yet the polarization is extreme. We have fans claiming to be Clark supporters attacking Reese and vice versa, creating a toxic feedback loop. But the core news remains that the scrutiny on Clark is unlike anything we have seen. No player is perfect. Every athlete struggles to control emotions in the heat of battle. But because Clark is the engine driving this 400% growth, her every grimace and every shout is analyzed with a level of intensity that simply does not exist for the rest of the league. This leads us to the concept of the household name. This is perhaps the most damning piece of evidence regarding the Clark effect. The transcript argues that before this season, there were very few, if any, true household names in the WNBA for the general sports public. Now, because of the massive influx of viewers tuning in to see Clark, other players are becoming stars by proximity. Players like Kennedy Carter, Dejounte Carrington, and Arike Ogunbowale have become recognizable figures to the average American sports fan. Why? Because they played against Caitlin Clark. They were the antagonists or the competitors in games that drew 2.5 million eyes. Even for better or for worse, these players are now part of the national conversation. The incident with Kennedy Carter, the All-Star Game heroics of Arike, these moments were amplified on a megaphone that Caitlin Clark built. The report explicitly states that no player became a general sports household name last season who wasn't one already, except through the lens of the Clark phenomenon. This is the definition of a rising tide. The hardcore fans knew who these women were. They knew how talented they were. But the general public, the millions of new viewers, did not. They met these stars because they bought a ticket to the Caitlin Clark show. A fascinating sidebar in this analysis is the mention of Sonia Citron. The report points to her as a rare example of a player who went from a major college program like Notre Dame to the WNBA and actually became more well-known in her rookie season in the pros. Usually, there is a dip in relevancy when leaving the college spotlight. But because the WNBA's platform has expanded so violently in the last year, players like Citron are stepping onto a stage that is brighter than the one they left. This is a testament to the new eyes on the product. The hardcore fans knew who Olivia Miles and Sonia Citron were, but now the casuals are learning, and that is a direct result of the viewership surge Tsai is talking about. We must also address the hardcore fan versus the casual fan dynamic. The transcript makes a crucial distinction. The hardcore WNBA fans are still there, and there are more of them than before. They are the foundation, but they are not the reason for the 3x multiplier in ratings. That multiplier comes from the casuals. These are the people who, when Caitlin Clark gets injured or isn't playing, simply do not watch. This is the terrifying reality for the league's long-term retention strategy. If the growth is fueled by people who only care about one player, what happens when she sits? We saw the numbers: 2.5 million with her, 700K without her. That drop-off is the single biggest risk factor for the WNBA's business model. Joe Tsai's comments illuminate the fact that the league has crossed a threshold. The statement that the average sports watcher did not watch the WNBA, now they do, is the most accurate assessment of the situation. It is a binary switch that was flipped. The league has existed for decades with immense talent, but it never captured the average sports watcher until now. And Tsai is validating that this switch was flipped by Clark. It wasn't a slow burn, it was an explosion. The report also brings up a hypothetical from the past to prove this point. It mentions Sammy Whitcomb's performance from 2 years ago, a 35-point first half. In the old WNBA economy, nobody outside the bubble cared. The narrator admits they didn't even feel the need to make a video about it because the audience wasn't there. Great basketball was happening in a vacuum. Today, if a player drops 35.5 against the Fever, it is the lead story on SportsCenter. That is the difference. The performance level of the league has always been high, but the relevance level has shifted tectonically. So what are the consequences of Joe Tsai publicly admitting this? It puts the pressure on the league to protect and maximize their asset. If the owner of the Liberty, a team that is arguably the villain to Clark's hero in the narrative of the season, is admitting that his franchise's value has quadrupled because of her, then the league office must ensure that the environment around her is sustainable. It validates the argument that the hating needs to stop, not for emotional reasons, but for business reasons. If you chase away the reason for the 400% growth, you go back to the baseline. And the baseline, while respectable, is not what is paying for charter flights and expansion teams. The comparison of crashing out is vital to understanding the viewer experience. Fans are seeing the double standard in real time. They see the media reaction to Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark, and they sense the inconsistency. By acknowledging that Caitlin Clark crashing out is treated as a national crisis while others get a pass, the report highlights the unfair burden of being the face of the league. She is expected to be the perfect ambassador for a 400% revenue jump, while also being a rookie, while also dealing with physical play, while also having coaches drag her back to the bench. It is a pressure cooker that no other player, not even the stars of the Liberty, has to endure. We are looking at a league that is currently dependent on the health and availability of one person. The transcript explicitly states, that's why you need Caitlin Clark healthy and playing. It is not just about the quality of the game, it is about the solvency of the growth chart. If she misses time, the 2.5 million becomes 700K. The ad rates drop. The buzz dies. The general sports watcher changes the channel back to football or baseball. Joe Tsai knows this. That is why he is speaking out. He is signaling that the entire collective success of the WNBA, including his own team's massive valuation spike, is riding on number 22. This is a moment of clarity for the WNBA. For months, we have heard conflicting narratives. We have heard that the league was growing anyway. We have heard it's a collective effort. We have heard everyone contributes. But when the money is counted and the owner of the biggest market team in New York looks at the spreadsheet, the answer is singular. The Liberty went up 400%. The viewership is 3x. The household names are being minted in Indiana. The Caitlin Clark effect is no longer a theory. It is a confirmed business fact endorsed by the ownership class. The reluctance to say it because of who she is has been overcome by the sheer weight of the capital she has generated. The Caitlin Clark haters who pretend it is about basketball have been exposed by the numbers. It is not about her handle or her defense. It is about her impact. And her impact is that she took a league that was invisible to the general public and put it on the main stage. As we move forward, the question becomes, can the league convert these casuals into hardcore fans before Clark retires or gets injured? Can they bridge the gap between the 700K and the 2.5 million? Or will the WNBA remain a tale of two leagues, the one that exists when she plays and the one that exists when she doesn't? Joe Tsai has laid the cards on the table. The 400% growth is real, and it has a name. And for the first time, the powers that be are admitting that without her, the math simply doesn't add up. This is the reality of the WNBA in the modern era. It is a league transformed, a business revolutionized, and a culture clash ignited, all sparked by a rookie who forced the world and the owners to pay attention. The Liberty are up 4x, the ratings are up 3x, and the truth is finally out.